Hey there, guys. So yeah, I'm sorry for the lack of videos recently. I'll try and be a bit more consistent in the future. It's just there hasn't been too much to talk about in the world of boxing. There's not too many fights I'm really interested in coming up, but with the announcement of the Saudi Arabia card happening in September, hopefully I'll be able to cover all of those fights. And yeah, today I'm going to be talking about a fight that I think is going a bit under the radar. I haven't really seen anyone, the channels that I watch talking about this fight. And the way these guys both fight, and the fights I've seen of these guys, they're never in a boring fight, either of them. And it can only make for a good fight. And it's obviously Juan Francisco Estrada, and he takes on Jesse Bam Rodriguez. So yeah, as I've said, I believe this will be a very fan-friendly fight. Both guys are known for throwing a high volume of punches. Both guys always come to fight. And I can only see this fight being a war, and a battle of attrition as long as it lasts. So this fight I believe this fight is going to come down a lot to timing, activity, and just where both guys are at in their careers. Who's had the tougher fights, who's taken the most damage. Obviously, Juan Francisco Estrada, he's been a bit inactive. I believe his last fight was the Chocolatito fight. I believe that was December of 22, I think it was. And before that, he fought RG Cortez, I believe the guy's name was, and he didn't look very good in that fight. And then before that, I think it was another year and a half before he fought. So Estrada's been very inactive. And I don't think he's looked particularly good in his last two fights. The Cortez fight I thought was very close against someone who, isn't that good, to be honest. Cortez is someone who got absolutely dominated by Nakatani. And I believe he won a controversial split decision against some journeyman in Mexico, which a lot of people thought the journeyman actually won. So he's just like a C-class fighter, to be honest. He's just someone who, he gets brought in to get beaten up, basically. And that fight was very close. It was like sort of 7-5 or 8-4 to Estrada. And even though he scored a knockdown, the fight it still ended up being quite close. And then he had the third fight with Chocolatito. And a lot of people thought he lost that fight. The fight was very close. But it was only close because Chocolatito really started slowly. I think if Chocolatito would have started a bit quicker, I think the fight would have been a bit more conclusive in his favour. But because of his poor start, I think the fight ended up being very close. And by contrast, Bam Rodriguez has been very active since beating Quadras for the title. I believe that was about 2 years ago. He's fought Rung Vasai, and then he fought, I believe it was Israel Gonzalez, and then he fought the other Mexican for the vacant title, and then he fought Sonny Edwards. So he's been having, a good spell of activity. He's been fighting top level guys. I'd probably say apart from the vacant title, but he's been fighting good competition, and he's been stepping up in the levels. I'd probably say Sonny Edwards is probably his best opponent to date. Even though guys like Quadras and Rung Vasai have accomplished a lot more in their careers than Sonny Edwards has at this stage of his career. I think Edwards was a lot fresher. He was 20-0 going into that fight, undefeated. Quadras and Rung Vasai coming to the end of their careers, when Bam fought him. So I'd probably say Sonny Edwards was just his best win based on the timing of it. And based on styles, I think Edwards going into the fight was seen as quite a difficult style for Bam. At least I thought he would be. And yeah, I think Bam's definitely had the more activity. I think he's a lot fresher at this stage of his career. And I think, just going into this fight, I think he's definitely going to be favoured just based on his freshness and his activity. And I think he's just going to be a bit sharper in this fight, just based on, getting in the ring and honing his craft. And I think this fight will probably be quite similar to the third Estrada versus Chocolatito fight. And I think it'll probably be quite similar to Bam's fight with Israel Gonzalez. Estrada is probably going to come out in the first couple of rounds. He's going to throw a lot of punches. He's going to be moving around in that sort of boxer puncher he's going to be that classic boxer puncher. He's going to throw a lot of a high volume of punches. He's going to be using a lot of movement. And I think in the early rounds, I think Bam's going to have problems, just based on Estrada's movement and, how many, his high volume. Bam is someone who gets tagged a lot on the way in, so I can definitely see Estrada using a lot of movement and being able to tag Bam, when he's trying to close the distance. And we've seen Bam struggle with the range in the early rounds. You look at like the Israel Gonzalez fight, he lost quite a few of the early rounds in my opinion. Israel Gonzalez was just on the back foot throwing a lot of punches, and I thought he picked up quite a lot of the early rounds. Bam was able to come on strong late. He was the aggressor, and he was just able to win, most of the last 6 rounds just based on his aggression, and he pretty much beat Israel Gonzalez up in those last 6. And Sonny Edwards was able to pick up a lot of early rounds against Bam, just based on outboxing him. So Bam's definitely someone who does tend to get outboxed in the earlier part of the fight. And I think it'll probably be the same situation here. When Estrada's fresh, he's definitely going to have a lot of success. But I think after the 5th or 6th round, I think Estrada will probably win the majority of the first 6. After the 5th or 6th round, I think Bam will probably start to turn it up. I think he'll realise, okay, I'm behind in this fight, I need to really step on the gas here. And I think from then on, he'll definitely have a lot more success. Because he'll be in the first couple of rounds, he'll be sort of systematically breaking Estrada down. He'll be working the body. He'll be applying that physical and mental pressure. And he'll just be doing some of the same things that Chocolatito was able to do. I in my opinion, Chocolatito at this stage of his career is a lot better than Bam. Just based on technical ability, I think he probably does almost everything better than Bam at this stage of his career. But one big advantage that Bam has over Chocolatito is his physical size, and his strength. Bam's very big for a super flyweight. He was able to go from 108 pounds to 115 and still be bigger than Cuadras in the ring. So Bam is someone who, he can't make 112 pounds anymore. So he's had to move up for this fight. He's a very big super flyweight, and I expect him to be, a fair size bigger than Estrada on the night of the fight. And I think, with him trying to break down Estrada, applying that pressure, working the body, I definitely think his size is going to be a big advantage to him in this fight. I definitely think it's going to play in his favour. And I think by the later rounds, I think Bam will start to have a lot of success. I think, I don't really think Estrada's going to be able to keep him off. Bam has shown a very good chin in his career so far. He's able to take shots from Rung Vasai, Cuadras, Israel Gonzalez. I don't think he's ever been hurt, to be honest. I've never really seen him badly hurt in a fight. So I don't really think Estrada's going to be able to keep him off. Estrada's not like a big puncher as it is. And in the last 6 rounds, I can see Bam picking up most of them, just based on aggression, and just based on walking Estrada down and just outworking him a bit. He'll be the aggressor, so he'll probably be getting the rounds on the scorecards, effective aggression and all that. And I think, obviously, Estrada got 2 controversial decisions over Roman Gonzalez. A lot of people thought Roman Gonzalez beat Estrada in all 3 fights. And he's a very aggressive fighter as well, throws a high volume of punches. And I just think Bam's a lot fresher at this stage in his career. I just think he's been more active. He's going to be a lot sharper. And he's taken a lot less damage than Estrada in his career. He's had a lot less, tough, grueling fights. So I think he's a lot fresher. And I don't see him stopping him. I think it's possible, but I don't really see Estrada getting stopped in this fight. I think he'll go the distance. and I believe Bam Rodriguez will win on points. I think the fight will be very close. I think Estrada's work in the early rounds will definitely, he'll definitely pick a lot of those up. But I think in the later part of the fight, I think Bam will probably start to dominate the later rounds. And I can see him winning 8-4 decision, 116, 112. And I just think at this stage of his career, I think he's got too much for Estrada. And Estrada is probably not going to get any favours on the scorecards this time. A lot of people thought that Chocolatito, his effective aggression, won him enough of the rounds against Estrada to win the fight, but obviously Estrada was able to get controversial decisions. And I think this fight will be fairly similar to the third Chocolatito fight, as I've said. And the difference is, in this fight, Bam's definitely the A side. I think he'll be more politically protected. This is a matchroom show. Bam Rodriguez is the top prospect. He's the guy who's tipped to be like pound for pound in the future. He's the young prospect coming through. Estrada is the older sort of faded champion on the way out. So I think if this fight is close, I think Bam Rodriguez will definitely get the nod. I think even if it's a controversial decision, I still think Bam Rodriguez will be the one who wins that controversial decision. So he's definitely the politically protected fighter in this fight, in my opinion. He's definitely the A side. And I just think Bam Rodriguez is going to win this fight. I think he's going to do enough to take on the scorecards. 8-4, 116, 112 type decision, I think. And yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you agree? Do you disagree? And yeah, God bless. Thanks for watching.